Practice makes perfect. Learn my craft.
Hello and welcome to the Learn My Craft podcast. I'm Sema, and today's episode we're going to do a deep dive into the world of practice. Now, usually when I ask people what is the biggest challenge that you face as an artist, the most common answer is finding the time to practice. Or I barely have enough time to do my art, let alone practice new things. If that's you, don't panic, you are not alone. I fall into the same trap. Despite being a full-time artist, I still find it hard to find the time just for practice. Being a mum and a business owner, it's just so time-consuming. But I want to learn new skills and test new techniques and materials and subject matter. So I set about trying to understand what practice really means as an artist and how to do it effectively. The results really surprised me and led to some great insights. So firstly, what actually is practice? So when we've all heard the phrase practice makes perfect, even features in the jingle for this podcast, but does it really? If we practice all the time, will our art start to feel perfect, or is the bar just raised each time we improve? We often prioritise finished pieces over skill building and feeling guilty for wasting time on practice when we could be working on finished work to exhibit or sell. However, this leads to stagnation, doing the same old thing every time we make art. And there's nothing that kills creativity and creates artist block like your art turning into a repetitive chore. So if practice is the key to getting better, how do we do it? And what does good practice look like? Is little and often the way forward? Or should I block off a day, a week to deep dive into a new skill? To find out, I decided to dig deeper and see what science says about practice. As part of my research, I discovered a study in the journal Topics in Cognitive Science, where researchers at Brown University tried to find out how best to practice if you want to become more skilled at a task. So here's what they discovered. Moderation beats quantity. So people who practiced moderately rather than consistently improved most over time. So there is such a thing as too much practice or information overload where it starts to have diminishing returns. Spacing out practice is key. So spaced out practice leads to better skill retention, because your brain needs time to process what you've just learned before applying it again. And if it's going to become part of your long-term skill set, you can't binge practice all in one go and hope that it goes in. It's a continual process of little and often. And short breaks are fine. A day or two off won't hurt. But long breaks, like 30 days plus, cause significant decline in skill level. So we need to make practice part of our regular routine. So to sum up, regular intentional practice is more effective than cramming. Another study in 1993 looked at the best way to train musicians. They found that deliberate practice, where students work on a specific skill guided by a teacher who sets goals and methods, was the key to becoming highly skilled. They called this structured practice. So just aimlessly playing around in practice time was up to 60% less effective, and building your skills than structured practice with a goal in mind. So if we artists are going to use practice to improve, we need to bring in some structure to make it really work. So here's how to structure effective practice. First, let's break it up into manageable chunks. I now practice in 3 1-hour sessions per week. This gives me time in between to rest and process what I've done, but keeps my practice consistent. To set specific goals for each session. For example, practicing textures or values or speed or exploring an aspect of color theory. But don't overcomplicate. Have one simple goal for your session. And this helps target weakness and builds new skills. And don't forget to keep it fun. Practice shouldn't feel like a chore. Experiment and play and add variety and stop when you're ready to. Don't force it. So here are some tools that you can use to track your practice. So I personally use the art practice journals from learnmycraft.com. And these are the art practice journals that we use most weeks here on the podcast to draw from. The journals help you track your progress and give you a wide variety of reference photos to test your skills out with. So lots of different topics to try, like pet portrait, African wildlife, British wildlife, equestrian, landscape, marine life, rainforest wildlife, human portraiture, and florals. You can track your progress and it gives you a tangible feedback and motivation to keep going. You can see how far you've come and it creates an amazing record of your work. There's also a space to write the date above each square, and if you use a specific paper, you can cut out the square and stick it in. And also it's great for testing papers. This is what I love to do as well with it. So the benefits of practice is faster skill development. So when you practice consistently, you'll rapidly notice improvements in your technique. Increased confidence. So as you practice, you'll feel more confident tackling new commissions or challenging projects. Creativity boost. So playing around with the new techniques during your practice can spark a fresh idea for your artwork and break through artist block. Improved focus and efficiency. So practice sessions teach you to focus on specific aspects of your work, making your overall art process faster and more intentional. And finding art fun again. So practice is a chance to experiment and have fun with your art again. I've had some questions in from you guys about practice, so I'll do my best to answer those now. Question 1. How do I find time to practice with a busy schedule? So I would say start small. Even 15 to 30 minutes a couple of times a week can have a big impact. It's more about consistency rather than the amount of time you spend. Question 2. What should I focus on during practice sessions? So I would choose one specific goal or technique for each session. For example, one session could focus on fur texture and another on getting proportions right or a whole new medium that you've been curious about. Question 3. What if I don't see improvement right away? So practice doesn't always lead to instant results, but keep going. Track your progress over time and compare where you started versus where you are now. This is where the little dates above the boxes come in handy. Question 4. How can I stay motivated to practice regularly? So make it enjoyable by experimenting and adding variety. Don't feel pressured to create and finish a piece. Think of it as time to explore and play. I personally like to open one of the journals randomly, point my finger and just draw that one that day. It's a really fun way of just picking a picture that you normally wouldn't draw before, and it could be something new and exciting. Question 5. Is it okay to practice multiple techniques in one session? So I'd say yes, but try to focus on one main skill at a time. If you're practicing textures, for example, focus on that throughout the session so you can refine it fully. So in conclusion, Regular practice, spaced out, with specific goals will improve your skills more effectively than marathon sessions or long breaks. Start small and keep it fun. Small, consistent steps lead to big results. So how are you going to practice your art? Let me know in the comments what you've tried. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you next time. If you've enjoyed listening, remember you can watch this podcast with video and no ads at learnmycraft.com, where you'll also find animal art practice journals, books, and tutorials to get you started. Hit subscribe and follow the podcast, and we'll see you next time.